This video is sponsored by Laka. Get 30 days free bicycle insurance using the link and code down below.
Hello and welcome to Just Ride Bikes. I'm David and this is a brand new Basso SV. I'll be honest, Basso isn't a brand I'm super familiar with. I reviewed the Diamante a handful of years ago and found it a very stiff and aggressive race bike. But when they emailed me recently asking if I was interested in riding the new SV, I said yes, because it strikes me as a bike designed not for the pros, as most race bikes are, for us regular riders who enjoy the speed and handling of a race bike, but do want and need a slightly more relaxed fit and appreciate space of wide tyres. So the geometry is really interesting. There are 7 sizes available and this is a 56. I'm 181 centimeters tall for your reference. And the stack is higher, so the head tube and therefore the handlebars. So it's higher than a Tarmac, for example, but not as high as an MV Frey or another endurance bike. So the fit is somewhere between the extremes of a race bike and the extremes of an endurance bike. But then the other interesting detail is that below the fit is essentially a race bike. So the head tube angle and the seat tube angle are the same as a race bike, so quite steep. And the wheelbase is short like a race bike. And that's a key difference, because endurance bikes, while they have the higher stack and a shorter reach, also have a longer wheelbase for more relaxed riding manners and space of wide tyres. But in keeping the same wheelbase and head tube angle as a race bike, you get the same agility and responsiveness as a race bike, but combined with a more relaxed fit up top. And it is a really interesting mix. And there aren't many bikes that fall into this camp of being somewhere between a race bike and an all-road endurance bike. And the other interesting measurement is the tyre clearance. There's space for 35mm wide tyres, and that, like the geometry, puts it somewhere between a race bike at 32 and an endurance all-road bike at 40. And the same as the MV Melee, which is a race bike, also with 35mm tyre clearance. So that again might be just enough for people wanting to go to a 32, 34 or 35, but don't want a 38 or a 40 on their bike. So yeah, really interesting set of numbers and angles, and like I say, might be perfect for a lot of people. So the fit and tyre clearance are really interesting, but there are other details. As you can see, it's clearly an aero bike, and they claim it's 16% more aero than their last bike. And you see all the aero profiles on the fork, the head tube, the down tube and the drop rear stays. There's full internal routing with a choice of 2 handlebars and a wide range of sizes in terms of width and stem length. This one is a really nice shape. It's 37 centimeters in the hoods with flared drops and a swept back design to shorten the reach, and the reach on the handlebar is quite short too. Quite bulbous around the steering tube, which I don't really like, but the handlebar shape itself is really nice actually. I really like the handlebar. The frame is also designed to offer more comfort as well. So space for wide tyres, as I mentioned, but then the seat post clamp is really interesting with a sort of rubber damper inside the frame to allow the seat post to flex more. And the seat tube is also shorter as well to give more exposed seat posts. So that combination should give a bit more compliance, a bit more comfort in the saddle. There's a 2-bolt clamp here, which does worry me in terms of winter riding with spray from the rear wheel, but no slipping at all. And nice to have markings on the seat post to get the saddle height just right. And it's lightweight as well. The frame has a claim weight of 790 grams, and on my scales, the top end build is 6.9 kilos, so very light indeed. Now, when I shared a photo of the bike on Instagram the other day, the reaction was universally very positive indeed. And it's easy to see why. It's a good looking bike. The shapes, proportions, the tube profiles, and then for me, the exposed carbon fibre weave underneath a clear coat. And I think Basso are right to share that, because they are one of the few Italian brands that actually make carbon frames in Italy. And you would think a frame made in Italy would mean a high price, and well, not a cheap bike, but not crazy expensive. In the UK, there are just 2 models, Ultegra Di2 for 7 grand and Durace Di2 for 9 grand. like the build here, but with Campag wheels, oddly. And that is £3,000 cheaper than a Specialized Tarmac SL8 with the same group set and similar quality wheels. So yeah, quite a bit cheaper than a frame made in Taiwan versus one made in Italy, which does surprise me. You think a frame made in Italy would cost a lot more than one not made in Italy. So that's quite interesting for starters. Another comparison is the NV Melee. Again, a race bike like a Tarmac, so a more aggressive stack and reach than the bike here, but also has space for 35mm tyres and also has mudguard mounts as well, which is a cool feature. I don't think many people buying a race bike want mudguard mounts, but maybe they do. Then another interesting comparison perhaps, but straying into the endurance all-road category, is the giant Defy. The Defy, unlike most other endurance bikes, is quite racy in its stack and reach and not too far off this bike here, but has much bigger tyre clearance if you want even more comfort and more capability for sort of light gravel and dirt roads, which this bike probably will get out of its depth quite quickly if you do take it off-road. And another interesting comparison for me is because the company talks about this sort of all-road space, but a 35mm tyre doesn't make it all-road in my opinion. I think you need 40mm tyres for an all-road bike, and the 51 Seeker is an interesting option. Again, like this bike here, has slightly more relaxed geometry, but not full-on endurance bike, trying to be a real-world speed-focused bike, but space of 40mm tyres, so more than we have here. So compared to those other bikes, in terms of pricing, the Basso SV is almost good value for money for a frame made in Italy. Let's be honest, who isn't worried about crashing or having their pride and joy nicked? That is where Laka comes in. Unlike most insurers, they keep things simple. No excess and claims, no depreciation, and you're covered for everything from theft and accidental damage to spills and thrills on race day. There's no contract locking you in either. You can pause, upgrade, or cancel anytime. Super easy. Instead of charging a fixed fee, Laka pulls claims from all members each month and splits the cost fairly, so you only pay your share up to a set cap. If there aren't many claims, you pay even less. And because Laka only takes a cut when claims are paid, you know they're squarely on your side. So don't wait until it's too late. There's 30 days free insurance right now with code JUSTRIDE at laka.co, or hit the link down below in the description of today's video. So I've just done a 4-hour ride on the bike on some of my favourite roads and a range of road surfaces, and it's a comfy bike. I feel really good after the 4 hours of pushing hard on the pedals, but it feels like a race bike. It's long, narrow and low, just like you want for riding fast. And the wheelbase is short too, so it changes direction very quickly indeed. And from where I'm sitting right now and riding the bike, it feels very racy indeed. Doesn't feel like an endurance bike at all. Just has a strong race bike vibe to it. And does feel like a combination of a Specialized Tarmac and a Giant Defy, which might be the perfect blend of that race snapiness and that more relaxed fit from an endurance road bike that you're seeking. But it's still a stiff carbon race bike. You feel the road texture, the road surface beneath the tyres, but it's definitely a bit smoother than a race bike, but definitely closer to a race bike than an endurance road bike, like a Specialized Roubaix or MV frame. But I did appreciate the handlebars being a bit higher and closer to me than a stretched race bike, so that does make it an easy bike to ride over a long distance if you're not used to sitting on a race bike for 30 hours a week like a pro is. And I'm lucky that the bike fits me perfectly like a glove with the handlebar, which is a relief because with one-piece handlebars you can't change the handlebar width or the stem length if you need something shorter, narrower, wider, whatever it might be. So count myself lucky, the bike fits me really well, but if you're taller or shorter or have different proportions than I do, then you might struggle to get a good fit with the one-piece handlebar on the bike. So the Basso SV is a really interesting bike. In some ways, it's just what people like myself need. We're not racing, but we still like to ride a race bike for speed and how dynamic and exciting they are, but need a bit more comfort. and with space of 35mm wide tyres and that higher stack and shorter reach, it might just be the perfect combination. But is it still too close to a race bike? An MV Melee has the same tyre clearance, and with some spaces underneath the stem, you could probably replicate the fit of the bike reasonably well. And if you want more comfort, then you can't beat an endurance road bike. Something like the Giant Defy, which has a quite racy fit compared to most conventional endurance bikes like the Specialized Roubaix or the MV Frey. So yeah, where it does enough depends on what you want and what you need from your race bike, but the best thing is to look at the geometry chart and see how it compares to your current bike and whether it's a bike that can fit you and suit the riding you do. But I have really enjoyed riding the bike. It's a lot of fun. It's lightweight, it climbs extremely well, it's very fast, not as quick as an all-out aero bike like the Aeroad or Madone or the 3T Strada Italia I recently rode the day before this bike as well, but similar to a Tarmac or a TCR. It does feel like a middle ground between a TCR and a Tarmac with a blend of the Defy in there as well. So an interesting mix, an interesting proposition indeed.
The Basso SV goes against the grain of pro-focused race bikes, offering a fast, responsive ride that doesn't compromise all-day comfort. With its balanced geometry and generous tyre clearance, it's engaging and rewarding without being punishing. Perfect for cyclists who want speed and sharp handling, but aren't chasing marginal gains or world tour stiffness. If you're not ready to make the leap to an endurance road bike, the SV might just be the sweet spot you didn't know you were looking for.